Hello everyone, from time to time I create polls in YouTube and ask you the things, and those polls are usually somehow related to upcoming or past videos, and this time I asked what one single upgrade you would do if you want to improve your bike's performance in any way. You have chosen carbon wheels as a first step, and then some were also about power meters. In this video I will share you one additional upgrade which might help you ride faster. No, it's not ceramic bearings if you were ahead of me, not this time. Here is XTR's caliper which came with the bike, and it's 2 pistons, and as you can see it's already ripped off from the bike. What does that mean? RC Pro model came with XTR brakes. Did I change them to SRAM? Probably no sane person would change Shimano brakes to SRAM, but that's a different topic. This time we're here to discuss 4-port brakes or 4-piston brakes on Spark model, or actually on any other bike if you want to. The main reason why I made this upgrade is because my lever started to leak and I had to change them to something else. At the same time, I was not exactly happy how these pads perform over these. This is 4-pot brakes brake pad. This one is taken from the road bike, and for some reason Shimano decided to use those smaller pads in XTR calipers. I'm 82 kilograms guy, and these brake pads were performing significantly less efficient than I had those brakes in XT calipers in the past. I decided to upgrade the whole brake set to XTR 4 pistons and see what that might lead me to. I was really surprised by everything which this set brings to the bike, as well as additional weight penalty of around 150 grams. So from one sense it's not very good idea when you're considering it for XC bike, but if you're going into mountains or into trails, original brakes just doesn't work for my type of riding, as well as my body weight as well, at least in my opinion. So what do you get with 4 pistons brakes? First of all, double amount of pistons, but that doesn't mean that they will be twice as big as this one. Basically 2 piston brakes has bigger pistons, while the 4 piston brakes have 2 side-by-side pistons, and they are significantly smaller. So here are 2 pistons fitted in one side, and here is one. One additional thing how I decided to change those 2 piston brakes into 4 ones. On the longer descents, the disc of 160 millimeters just got busted. Probably the mineral oil starts boiling at some point as well, and in Alpentor, for example, on the longest descent of the day, I was partially without brakes going downhill. It's not a good thing to gain speed which you don't have skills to control, so for that reason I better go safer than kamikaze and banzai into the corner without knowing what's upcoming in front. However, you don't necessarily need to go into the 4-pots brakes, because you have one additional thing to consider is installing bigger disc at the rear. I haven't done this option, but I might consider doing that in the future. For the Spark, they have these type of fitments, and you have 2 choices. So this one is original 160 millimeters, and it goes as a mount here. The options you have is either to install the rear mount on top of this, but it looks a bit bad in my opinion, and then install bigger rotor on your wheel, or our way is to replace this one with the bigger adapter. So this applies for Spark, but on other bikes you just have to check how to install the bigger disc and what adapters you might need. This one comes without the longer bolt, so you need to find it out somewhere else. You can see that it's significantly longer, and original one which comes with 160 millimeters won't work, but you just have to find the longer bolt, and that will be kind of it. I haven't tested this one yet, and I went with 4-pot brakes because I just wanted to testify the difference, what you can gain. You can go into the corner, basically brake anytime you want, and you will know that you will control that speed, which on the original 2 pistons brakes on XTR was not really the case, at least for me. So instead of braking a lot, on these, I will better choose to break a little bit on 4 pods and just continue riding. One additional thing is because I changed the levers as well, they come with servo wave. It behaves a bit differently. The feeling of the lever is not as linear. You can also adjust the free stroke and the reach, which I believe in casual XTRs are not available to do so. It's minor thing, but it's just nice. The last two things about 4-pod brakes is that because you have stronger power in the caliper, that means you will have to work less with your fingers. In downhills, that's very beneficial because your hands gets less tired of braking, because you don't have to brake as much and as often and as strong, because it just grabs and it stops. So yeah, that's very good thing. However, apart from the weight penalty, which I already mentioned, there are two other things to consider. You will have twice as more pistons to maintain. They get dirty, you need to clean them if you want them to perform well. Also, it might get to the situation where one-sided pistons are moving not equally, and that can make your brake pad a bit angular. So these type of things are to be considered when switching to 4-pod brakes. It's nothing major, but it requires a bit more maintenance of stuff, and I believe that bleeding should be done more often, because I done full bleed after 5 months of riding. I was very much surprised at the color of the mineral oil I removed out. Thankfully, I did top to bottom first bleed. That means I pulled the oil from the caliper to the syringe at the bottom. Instead, what I have been doing in the past is just pushing all the dust and particles through the system to the main cylinder, which I believe is a bit of a problem and the reason why levers started to leak in the first place. However, XTL levers of 9100 are prone for that issue of leaking, so maybe it's related, maybe not, who knows. But all I can say that apart from additional maintenance, these are just nuts. I'm also using resin pads with fins. Then I know that I'm going to the mountains just to help that heat eliminate faster. Maybe at some point I will try 180 millimeters at the rear as well, and will let you know how it goes. But for now, I'm pretty much happy with 160 and it works fine. And as you can see, it's pretty much dirty Duke's wheel, about which I will also make a video at some point. It's kind of been left in the shadows about this situation. So I have a rim which cracked, it's Duke's one, and I have something to say about it as well. So this has been waited for a year. Finally, the time will come to do that. Last but not least, I'm a bit of a fan of ovals, and I have 3 different manufacturers, 32 chain rings, which in the past I thought that they should be equal by feeling, despite the fact of different looks, but reality is a bit different, and I will cover that in upcoming video. If you're a fan of ovals, you might learn something new. If you're a fan of round chain rings, maybe it's time for you to choose the best out of these and try it on your own. Something to consider for the new season.